Elia presents Talking, and today we're here to talk sports with my friend, Coach Karim McDonald. He's the head coach of the women's basketball team at Green River College. He also coaches 15U, 16U, 17U, Team Levine, sponsored by Zach Levine. He's one of the loudest people I've ever played hoops against. He is a sports enthusiast. What's up, Coach?
Hey, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. So I want to go down all the NBA playoffs first, and let's start at the surprise series, the Bucks and the Heats, 3-0, Jimmy Butler. Did you see this coming?
Oh, man, I don't know if I saw it coming, but, as you know, coaching-wise, I kind of geek out about this stuff. I'm a huge fan of Miami, like just how they've done stuff. Like, they have great stories. They've brought a lot of guys that haven't had great careers and just made them who they are, allowed them to flourish in roles. So I don't think 3-0 is what I saw, but I definitely saw at least like them winning the series.
So you recruit players and you coach players. Like Miami just seems like they have all of that set up. Like Pat Riley knows who to draft, know who to trade for, and all that. Like how big do you think that is to an organization? Because we've seen teams like the Knicks do nothing for decades.
Yes.
And then Miami will have players go in and out and still be competing. They legitimately look like they could win it this year.
I think it's funny. We always talk about Greg Popovich, right? We always talk about the Spurs system, right? I actually, before we got to this, I was thinking about it. I was like, man, like Miami has done the same thing that Boston has and what the Spurs have, right? So they have an undrafted rookie in Kendrick Dunn, who I arguably thought was going to be, rookie of the year. Then you also have Tyler Hero, who's a rookie. Then you have Duncan Robinson, who went from D3 to D1. So they just are picking the right type of people. And like, obviously, I don't know if you've read this yet, but Jimmy Butler failed his first like exam running,
Yep.
So that sets the tone for everything. So they still have the same type of stuff that these two great organizations like Boston, like the Spurs have. But at the end of the day, like they just like get guys that want to compete, that want to be there. You know what I mean? All blue collar guys, all guys that work hard, and they just show up and they're ready to go. Like they don't take any nonsense. And like it's just obvious. Like getting rid of a guy like Dion Waiters last season just because he's not acting right and he's not passing tests, and he wants this, and then picking up guys that aren't as good as him, probably in the grand scheme of stuff that might not have careers outside of Miami. It's just phenomenal what they look at. Like I just saw a tweet yesterday that said, instead of getting talent, get rare. And you just look at everyone that have like Tyler Hero is a kid that like I personally, you and I both know if I saw Tyler Hero, I'm not worried about him. I'm just not. Like I'm not gonna guard him. And then next thing I know, he's gonna have 50 in a game of 21. So it's like it just did such a good job just getting the right type of people. And that's what most people probably should really take the note of. And that's what probably, like you said, the Knicks haven't done that.
Right. So and we've talked about this on Twitter. Richard Jefferson put out a tweet this week saying that Giannis needs a Jordan and he's more Scottie Pippen, which prompted Jay Williams to talk about LeBron, saying LeBron was a Pippen in Miami. And do you find – I actually think the analogy was what threw everyone off. What I keep saying to everyone is that Giannis needs a closer on the team.
Yes.
Like in the fourth, the Bucks are struggling when they need a bucket and a guy who can create his own shot. They just don't have it right now, like at all, anywhere on the roster. And do you find that Giannis needs that at Milwaukee or whether he leaves?
So I'll tell you this, and this is another like a little coaching thing that I've thought about. You look at championship team besides the Detroit Pistons when Isaiah Thomas won. Their best player can't bring up the ball. Like when LeBron was winning championships, he wasn't ball dominant, right? When LeBron got swept, he was ball dominant. When LeBron played against Golden State a couple of years, he was ball dominant. So to me, it's got to be, okay, who can be good enough to bring up the ball and get me in tough situations? Because you watch Giannis go down, like they're building a wall in front of him. You know, it's still tough to stop him. But at the end of the game, in the fourth quarter, shots like that are not – refs aren't going to call anything. And now you have guys that they're loading up. They know that you're going to attack. Compared to putting him on the wing, he's a much more deadly. So to me, I've always thought that coaches should, like, it's kind of funny that we bring up LeBron. Like George Hill was on that LeBron team, right? And George Hill is a good point guard. So you let him bring up the ball, let Giannis be able to get the ball in the mid post. I think they started to do that, but it's just too late. You know what I mean? We were already down in a hole. So I think the analogy is good. I think that people just have to realize you need a 1-2 punch. Like you just have to. Whether like, LeBron doesn't win without Kyrie. LeBron doesn't
Right.
win without D Wade,
Right.
Kobe doesn't win without Powell, and Kobe doesn't win without Derek. You know what I mean? Like someone has to fit a role, but I think now it's so hard to get your stars to buy into, hey, you should really be off the ball for these 4 or 5 possessions, and like so that's kind of where I fit. But yeah, I mean, I think it shocked people, but I just don't think people are gonna look at it as a basketball. Like, it's all about hate. Like I'm a huge Kobe fan, and I deal with it every day that people think Kobe was the most selfish player of all time. But at the end of the day, he was second to leading in assists. So it just kind of depends.
Well, that whole ball hog talk they do about Jordan and Kobe and stuff it only is brought up if it doesn't work and if they lose. And also, if you just brought up Derek Fisher, and we could bring up Robert or Rick Foss, and even with Jordan, like there are instances where he passed it to Kerr when it was game-winning shots, and John Paxson, whoever. So like they are ball dominant, but they also knew when to pass and make the basketball move. And I don't know if this Bucks roster has what they have in it to win it all. And
Yeah,
we
they
were
don't
saying it,
they don't have that extra piece. Like we just talked about Miami. Miami has pieces everywhere.
yeah,
Like you just don't know who's going to score. Like
yeah.
who's going to try to shoot. It's either going to be Brook Lopez for a 3 or Giannis for a layup. Like it's far and few. And then you'll be surprised if someone hits a shot. So I just think they don't have enough pieces. I think Giannis could be the centerpiece, but they don't have enough players deep enough in the run for them to like win it this year. And it's kind of showed when it comes down to in the second plays and last quarter, fourth quarter, or even in the big stretches where it's the middle of the second quarter.
Right. So I've been asking everyone who's been coming on, and I've been saying this from the beginning of when I started this series. I don't think Giannis is going to stay with the Bucks. Do you see a future with him in Milwaukee, or do you see him going somewhere else? And if so, where would you want to see him?
Oh man, that last one's tough. I truly do think he stays. I think that they're building it around him. I don't know if he stays if their coach leaves, because that'll be the second coaching change for him. So I don't know if they're really bought into him fully, and they've made like losing Malcolm Brogdon was tough. When you add all that together, I think he leaves if they don't get more pieces around him. But on a team that I would love to see him with, oh man, it's tough. I just don't know where you really put him on another team, because there's a lot of guard dominant players now, and like he's not a primary guard on any other team.
I projected one trade yesterday that I've never seen anywhere. I mean, I have no facts. I have no sources. I brought it up to a few friends. If I'm Mark Cuban, I package Porzingis, draft picks, whoever I can other than Luka to get Giannis. And I think that would be the move. Because, like, to be honest, every other team I keep thinking about, Milwaukee probably doesn't want the package. And, obviously Milwaukee will want to keep Giannis. And this is all saying if he were to leave, what would they think? But, yeah, I mean, it'd be nice to see all these stars spread out. But, like, I don't see this roster going further than what they've accomplished. And I don't know if that's going to deter his long-term success.
I mean, you say that now, I just like, man, it's tough. I mean, maybe get rid of the Ben Simmons possibly. Do you know what I mean? Like maybe you just do something small. I can see that working, I mean, they take longer, but he's just such a weird player to trade for. And like, yeah, people want him, but you rebuild around him. He's kind of like LeBron when he was really, really good. Like if you put shooters around him at every position, I think Giannis could be really successful.
Yeah.
But I don't think every team has that besides the ones that are winning, like the Bostons, the Miami. Like, I mean, also Phoenix would be a good spot for him also.
Yep. The other one, I mean, my friend Paul, he keeps wanting for is the Warriors. Package Andrew Wiggins and that number 2 pick and whoever the Bucks want for it. All right, let's move on to the Celtics and Raptors. So in game 3, OG Anunoby hit that shot. And today, the Celtics lost. Did the Celtics blow it? It's 2-2 now. Did they blow it?
I don't know if blew it. They're in a tough situation because going up 3-0 is key, because now you get to still see if Gordon Hayward can get back in time. But now as you go further stretches, you're missing Gordon a little bit with the 12 to 15 that he gives you. But I think that was it's a backbreaker, man. Like that's the only backbreaker I've really seen in the bubble, where like, usually when you're down 3-0 or you don't aren't going to make playoffs, you're not going to play as hard. But I just don't see Jason Tatum having another bad game like he did today. So I don't know if they blew it. I just think it makes the series probably go game 7.
I agree. I think the Celtics still are going to win it, just going longer. Very
Yeah.
nice. There's not too much I wanted to discuss over there. Even the Lakers Rockets, the Rockets blew out the Lakers in game 1, but the Lakers also got blown out game 1 against the Blazers. Do you see this as trouble for the Lakers or no?
I do, really. I think that at the end of the day, your 6'11" player has to be able to get 20 points in the paint. Like, I'm sorry, like, no one on that roster that plays is over 6'7", right? So who are you wanting to chuck up shots? PJ Tucker, Covington, Ben McLemore, or Anthony Davis shooting threes, right? Like, it really is going to come down to how Anthony Davis plays and if he can make points throughout the game. I really actually have the Rockets winning in 6 or 5, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah, I do. They're just deeper. Like think of the shot making ability that everyone has on the Rockets. Now Russell is a big thing. Like Russell will easily lose you a game. But at the end of the day, like to me, it really comes down to the fact that they have more pieces that are going to score. Like you can't trust KP. Danny Green sometimes doesn't show up to game. Kuzma's an okay option, but like it's just not enough to me. Like I love the Lakers, but like the Rockets are just deeper and their philosophy just trumps everything that LA has. But then again, they still have a top 3 player of all time.
Yeah.
So I mean, he could prove us wrong just by tomorrow by getting a triple double.
Sure. So I'm on record saying the Lakers in 5, and so far I'm technically not wrong. So I'm gonna say Lakers in 5 until I'm proven wrong. We'll revisit this convo, and when this series ends, I'll probably make a montage to see who was right or wrong.
We can even re-talk about it exclusively about every possession. Too.
Absolutely. So the Clippers Nuggets, the game just ended with the Nuggets winning. So now it's at 1-1. I don't, the same thing we've been talking about with the Bucks, but the Nuggets seem like a better team. With this is Jamal Murray to me is so streaky. Like he had a bad shooting day today, but the Nuggets still pulled it out. And if Jamal Murray's on, the Nuggets are difficult to beat. But I just don't know if I trust his consistency for the Nuggets to win it all. So there is a topic that I read on ESPN.com today that I was specifically wanted to ask you as a coach too. So Mike Malone, the coach of the Denver Nuggets, he had a story today. I don't know if you read it. So the players have had guests, their families come in since the second round of the playoffs. The referees are allowed one guest, but the coaches are not permitted any guests. And Mike Malone is saying, this is difficult on the coaches. They've been away from their family for 60 days. And, this is keep going and they don't know when it's going to happen. How much do you think this bubble is affecting players, coaches, all of them being away from family for so long, other than Jimmy Butler, who just seems to not care?
Pat Beverly is one of those guys.
Right, yeah. Other than like they're a different breed, but like how much do you think this is going to affect these people's mental?
I think that it's going to rethink coaching for a lot of people. I mean, obviously, like as a recruiter for mine, like I struggle. Like I don't get to see my family, my friends a lot, man. Like, so I can't imagine what it is being 60 days away from your family, knowing that you can't see them or talk to them. But like, it's part of the thing as coaches that we do. Like it's servanthood, like we serve our players, even at that level. Like, even if we're all grown men, we serve each other, So I think that the NBA could have done better in that retrospect. And like, it's kind of proven to me, like I argue with this about a couple of my friends on Twitter, actually, that it's a player driven league, no matter how much I look at it. And even as a coach, like to hear that, and I kind of read a little bit about it, to hear that and feel that, like it's just part of it, man. Like only coaches that really get a lot of love right now is, a Brad Stevens, a Popovich, or like a Nick Nurse. But Billy Donovan's done a good job, right? But he can see his family now. So I think that the NBA could do better with their coaches. I think that's going to bring a little bit of an uproar, because we're the fall guy, we're the main guy, we did good, and then it's just how it is. But coaching is always going to be like that. And so I think it's a little unfair, but I think that's what would be expected. It's just the hat we wear.
Right. Speaking of coaches, the Brooklyn Nets hired Steve Nash to be their head coach. Do you like the hire?
I think it's controversial, right? I think it's one of those things where everyone's like, oh, wait your turn. You got to go through the ranks. You have to go do this. And to me, it's like, if you know basketball, you know basketball. Steve Kerr didn't take a job before as an assistant, but he's always wanted to coach. I think what people don't know is the behind the scenes of Steve Nash working out Kevin Durant and actually working on stuff with him and being in the facility with him day to day and talking to them day to day and probably being in meetings and talking to Steve Kerr about it. Like, he's more ready than what people think. Now, and I'm on Twitter quoting this, is he going to have as much success as Steve Kerr did? That's very unlikely, right? Because they're rebuilding completely from everything, even with 2-star players. But I think that at the end of the day, like, he knows basketball. He's been around winning program, and that has been a big thing for hiring coaches. Like, you're not going to take the upstart to try to handle Kevin Durant. You're going to take a guy that's seen winning, that's been around him before, because those are two powerful personalities that could really rupture a locker room, still get 35, but then in the playoffs, that doesn't matter. So I think it's a good hire. And then I think as an African-American coach, like, here's the thing, like, it's not white privilege. And I think people need to get that out of their head. Like, it's not. It's a guy that's worked hard, that knows the game, and he just happens to be up. We didn't complain about this when it was Jason Kidd. Like, yeah, we thought for sure. And he had to coach teammates he had with KG and Paul Pierce. So at the end of the day, I think he's going to be really successful. I think people are it's just a sensitive time, and he's going to do well. I think he's going to be able to possibly get them to a good level. But then again, it's to be seen.
Let me ask this. I'm sure it's different on every level, but let's just say on the NBA level, and then specifically with this Brooklyn team, do you think at an NBA level for coaching, for head coaches, the X's and O's matter more than the coach's ability to understand and get through to the player and getting the most out of them? Because they're not necessarily the same things, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
Right. It's like if Steve Nash has that kind of relationship with obviously Kevin Durant, and, if he has one with Kyrie, that'd be nice too.
Yeah.
Do you think that matters more or equal to an X's and O's type of thing?
It matters a lot because it goes hand in hand. I think that people don't realize that, I think it's hard for instance, it's hard to coach Kevin and Russell, right? It's going to be a little hard to coach Kevin and Kyrie, two ball dominant players, and it hasn't worked before. Right. So I think it matters with the relationship, but I'm going to tell you this, like, the X's and O's do matter. And I'll take back to example, like, I got asked this question by a buddy of mine, is Jordan's 4 points less that he averaged one year once it got to the triangle important? Yeah, it definitely is. Right. Because they got everyone else to touch. And that's going to be the thing that Steve has to do besides relationships. So I think the X and O's part is super important, and it actually matters a lot more than the relationship part of it. Because if Kevin's getting his money and Kyrie's getting his money, they're scoring, that's great. But what about the Joe Harrises? What about the Jared Allens? So to kind of spin your question a little bit, I think it does matter. I think relationships are great. But without the X's and O's, it's not going to matter against coaches like in the East, against Nick Nurse and Brad Stevens. So it's very important for him to have the relationships, but he has to show up X and O's wise, because it's not make the playoffs and do okay. It's, hey, let's get to the championship this year, year one.
Love it. So, I was thrilled to have you on, not just so I can catch up and see your face, but because you are a women's coach, I was thrilled to talk about the WNBA.
Of course, I love it.
And last night, the Seattle Storm had a thrilling game against the LA Sparks while Jewel Lloyd hit a buzzer beater with 0.8 seconds left. It's a 3-point. So that put them at 15-3.
Yes.
And I actually looked the schedule up today. Their last game of the season on September 13th is against the Las Vegas Aces, who sit at 14-4. Yep. They're one game apart. And that's actually a postponed game that they're going back to because of the boycott.
Yep.
And I am thrilled to see it. Do you see the Seattle Storm coming into the playoffs as a number 1 seed?
Oh, yeah, off tops, no doubt. I'm not just saying that because we're Seattle guys. Like, there are so many nuances to the game that they run so perfectly, and every role matters, and it is just beautiful to watch them play. Like, they all contribute in a way. Like, it's so phenomenal to me to rewatch, because I rewatched the game last night. The way they play just it's remarkable, and it kind of leaves me speechless. So I honestly think that they're going to win a championship this year, and I think that, like, they're definitely a number 1 seed. If they're not a number 1 seed, they're ridiculously dangerous for number 2 seed
Right.
because they're so hard to guard, dude. Like I can't wait to talk about that part, but they're so hard to guard.
When I watch the WNBA or any women's basketball, college basketball too for women's, the level of fundamentals that they're good at is such at a high level. Their footwork, their screen setting, how they operate their offense, and watching them play, it's especially for a guy who's not 6'8" and not gonna jump out of the gym and dunk the ball. Like, it's incredible to see how they do it. Cause like, and the Storm especially, and we're spoiled out here because we have that team.
Yeah.
They're just unbelievable, and they have all the right pieces together.
Yes.
Do you see a equivalent for people who don't understand maybe the NBA equivalent? You think at any point, what team do you think this reminds you of?
Oh, that's a great question. Oh man, I think they're almost in moments and times. They are Brad Stevens type coach teams where they run great offense, but interchangeable, kind of how Golden State was without the 3-point shooting ability. Now, like the reason why I say that is because you have Alicia Clark posting up on some possessions, right? Being able to stretch floor. She's almost like a Draymond Green to a point, right? You have Breanna Stewart, who legit in her own right is Kevin Durant. Do you know what I mean? Now, as far as it goes, like having someone come off the bench as a veteran, like a Sammy Whitcomb, and just having Jordan Canada, who honestly is a starter, but plays a great backup role, right? They're so deep in the sense, but just the way they execute sets, like you watch a Brad Stevens team execute anything after game, into timeout, after timeouts, into game situations, like they execute every play so perfectly. And defensively, to be honest with you, like that Pistons team that like took the Lakers and won, like they remind me a lot of that Pistons team, except for a little more guard heavy. Like they guard the ball so tough, and they have so many similar NBA packages defensively against pick and rolls, like forcing to the baseline. So they do a lot of the same thing NBA wise, and I think that's what's like some people have to realize about the WNBA. Like there are a lot of moments that look exactly like NBA games, but like you said, it's just more fundamental, just better screens, better action with their footwork.
Do you see the Storm winning it all this year?
Oh
Like,
yeah,
is that, yeah, okay.
It's almost, to me, I would be shocked if they didn't. They're just
Yep.
too. And I just like when you have a first team for 2 first teamers, an MVP, someone that was arguably an MVP, and one of the best point guards of all time, male or female, it's phenomenal.
So I actually don't know any of the answers to these questions because I've never asked you. What kind of style of play do you like running as a coach for your team?
Oh man, I'm a consistent learner. So at our level, at the junior college level, I definitely tend to fluctuate to what team I have. So at the beginning of the year, this season, I was a run and gun, kind of the same type of spacing that Mike D'Antoni did with a 3-guard set, with our big coming to set us a screen. Okay, so that was what I was mostly into. We shot a lot of threes, but we lost a couple players this year. And what happened after that? Oh, I might have to sneeze. What happened after that was we ended up playing slower. And we ended up setting stagger screens, double screens, flare screens, and we ended up attacking and running clock down. So kind of like the Wisconsin teams of the men's side. So we definitely, like, I change year to year. Now, this year's team, I'm very fortunate. We're going to be really talented. All things go well if we play. And we're going to definitely be a team that feeds the ball into the post, that likes it, set different type of screen action. So I fluctuate to everything. I love learning about basketball. So anything I can learn or try to adapt to, I definitely do. But I have a couple of things I like to run. But we're mostly a run and gun team. We like to set up sets if we need to.
How difficult is it? Because like college, whether it's junior college or D1, D2, anything, it's not like dynasties in the NBA where you can have a singular team for like 5 to 10 years. How difficult is it to constantly have people go in and out every few years or a year and recruit and all that?
I think it's difficult because you try to one up your recruiting class and you try to find the next player of this instead of trying to find players that fit your system of what you're trying to do. So I think it's extremely difficult to say, hey, I have this roster here and I'm big this year, but then, okay, I didn't get any of the girls that I had that made us into post actions. And then now I'm small. Like, we're not going to even like remotely look the same as last year. Like team wise, we're so much bigger, so much more athletic. And that's not a knock on last year's team because I love them and they could shoot threes. They were good. We probably won't have as many 3-point attempts as this year. So it's definitely tough, but it's good because there's no pressure on me to really fulfill one system and get everything done. You know what I mean? So having a team for 5 to 10 years, I feel like that'd be more pressure than having a new team every year because I can adjust with the time and adjust with whoever's I have coaching.
So I'm a lot older than you. I won't mention my age. So when I was young, and I play, for my schools,
Mhm.
AAU was around, but it was not what it is now,
Yeah.
right? Like right now is like on another level. Is it almost impossible to take basketball seriously if you don't play AAU?
Yes and no. I think that it's not the same. It's evolved, and even when I was playing AAU, it was cutthroat. Like I was a decent basketball player. I was good enough to defend. I played on really good teams. I knew my role. Nowadays, there's so many teams. It's a lot easier to get it, which I think takes away from the like being genuine of, hey, what kid is actually trying to play college basketball? Like when I was playing, I wanted to play college basketball. So I think you can be successful and not play AAU. At some point, it might be better for some kids because you might get with the wrong thing because loyalty hurts in some cases when it comes to getting recruited. Like you might be with the wrong person and miss opportunities. So I think it's a lot more difficult I think it's easier to be successful without AAU. I just think it's about the people that support you because in other countries, like they don't play that much games. Like AAU is about playing a lot of games in the States. Here in other countries, they're about practicing 4 or 5 times a week and playing 1 or 2 games at most on the weekend. So I think you can definitely get a scholarship without playing. I think that AAU has taken a weird turn for, hey, if I don't make this team, I can go play for someone else, or I have enough money to go play, which it's not teaching you life lessons.
Oh, that's a good point. I never thought that. Okay, so I have few segments, but there is one in particular that I've never done with anyone, and I've named a player where I'm going to name you WNBA players, and you're
Oh,
going to name me the NBA equivalent.
you got it.
All right, so name the player, Coach. Courtney Vandersloot.
Man, the GOAT. Chris Paul S. Definitely a little bit better shooter. I think more so on John Stockton. More so. So John Stockton for Courtney Vandersloot.
Is she same age as you?
No, she's actually older by I
She's
think
older.
4 years maybe.
Okay.
So she's so talented.
Yeah.
Kentwood. Oh man, I hated
My
that.
alma mater. My alma
Hey,
mater.
man, isn't that crazy? The Kent Lake and Kentwood thing we have going on. This would not happen back when I was 18. I would have been so upset. But no, Courtney's amazing. Courtney and John Stockton, the exact same thing, and she's so phenomenal.
Listen, I only bring people on meritocracy. I don't show any nepotism here. All right, coach. Name the player Diana Taurasi.
Ooh, Diana Taurasi. Man, that's so tough. Right now, it's kind of Steph Curry-esque, but she's kind of in her own little league herself. I think they kind of shoot the same, like in the sense of like range and shot attempts right now, especially. But that's tough. I think she's in a class of her own.
Yeah, I've gone down hours of just watching her highlights before, and she's just unbelievable.
Yeah, it's just so hard because she's a bigger guard and she shoots lights out. Like I kind of equivalent her size kind of being close to like a Michael Carl Williams or Alonzo Ball, but with the shooting ability of kind of like not as good as Steph, but close like the no fear range. So
Sure.
yeah, it's tough.
Okay, name the player Candace Parker.
Ooh, Candace Parker. Utility. Man. I think she's more of Anthony Davis type where she can kind of shoot the ball a little bit, can kind of dribble and can post up at a good rate. Even though I didn't say good things about him earlier, but we're kind of remote and kind of the same thing.
Yeah, no, I was disappointed in game 1 with Anthony Davis too, because I just don't see how he shouldn't be eating up PJ Tucker in the post. Like he should be
It's crazy.
destroying him. He should be destroying him.
Side note, I know that it has nothing to do, but I have to say this if anyone hears this. It is okay for post players to be able to post up and us teach them how to guard guards. Like, that's been the only thing basketball hasn't translated is, okay, how come no one thought, hey, Kim can guard, so I can do the same thing that he did? You know, like I said, if you're 6'11", you're not getting at least 20 paint touches and scoring on them, you're not going to win a series. And that's got to be like Shaq always talks about it. And sometimes I give Shaq a little bit of a pass, but you got to dominate. Like, that's not dominant numbers, and how you get it, it really matters.
The game's changed. You know, like I said, I'm a little older. I haven't grown since I was in sixth grade. So I'm not a tall adult. I'm about an average adult, but I was a tall sixth grader.
Yeah.
And none of my coaches ever let me shoot from the outside, even though I could.
Same here.
Always make me post. And it's so funny how that's changed.
Yes. I was in the same class today where, like, I was training and, like, I looked at our 6-foot post girl that, like, is going to be a stud one day. I said, man, do I dare try to teach her how to dribble and how to do it in and out, or do I teach her a post move? And logic says, okay, let's go do a hook shot, because it matters, right? And if it was a guy, I would do the same thing. But it also comes into, like, it's like a double-edged sword. You never know. Like, you and I didn't grow. Like, I wish it was vice versa for me and I had someone like me coaching, because no one looked at me until sophomore, junior year and be like, dude, you're 5'9". So you doing a hook shot against people isn't going to work unless it's a 3-on-3 tournament. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I definitely think it's changed. I think coaching has changed, but it's just so drastic now. But, yeah, I had the same problem. I couldn't really shoot till junior year because of confidence. But, like, after I figured out, I was like, man, I should have been doing this years ago and getting so much more reps instead of doing a drop step against a 6-footer. Drop step?
Right.
Oh, man.
Right.
Take it back. Oh.
Right. All right, man. You actually brought this up example earlier, but I want you to say again. Name the player, Breanna Stewart.
Oh, Kevin Durant. Definitely Kevin Durant, man. I just so dynamic, can get downhill, definitely has a great shot. I mean, she's so, like, Kevin Durant literally will put a dagger in my heart if I was another team, if I saw him wind up and get into his shot. When Breanna winds up and gets to her shot, I know it's going in, you know? So that definitely, yeah, Kevin Durant.
For sure. And then the last one, name the player, Sue Bird.
Oh, man. That's so tough. I'd probably, man, she's so the GOAT. I can't compare her. She's the GOAT. I mean, I love that you're asking this, because it really is. You could kind of find a couple players that are similar, but the women's game has evolved so much now that, like, the ones that have been doing it for so long kind of are in their own little subcategories now, like Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi. Like, you know, is when people shot the little ball in the trash can at Kobe, that became a trademark. Like, to me, just being an advocate, like, I just look at Sue Bird, I'm just like, it's Sue. Yeah. Like, what can you expect? Like, I was there the day where her nose is messed up. She has the mask on. She's hitting threes, and I'm like a little blur in the ESPN trying to screenshot myself. Like,
I've loved Sue Bird for a long time. So when I was a freshman in college in the dorms, I remember watching them win their first championship, and it was a surreal moment. And at that point, like, I haven't watched that much WNBA, but, like, all my friends, we're all watching it together, and they were just so good. Lauren Jackson at the time, too, incredible player.
Yes, legit. Amazing.
Yeah, and the Storm's done a good job. So I told you earlier off air that I was going to tell the story, so now's a good time. Yes. So I was at a birthday party last year, not last May, the year before May. So it was May of 2019. My good friend Alan Latran's birthday party, and this was at X Stadium in Pioneer Square. And it was his birthday, so we're in the booth, and I was hanging out there, and the entire Storm team comes in, and who no other than Stewie sits right next to me, back to back, at the club. And I don't ever go to the club. I'm old, man. I go to sleep early, and I was geeking out so bad. Yeah. I turned over, and the first thing I said was, "I'm a fan. I hope your injury heals properly and smoothly." And I asked if we could take a photo, and she was very gracious. And we take the photo, and who do I see on the other side of the booth? None other than the GOAT, Sue Bird. She drank some of that juice, and she was feeling good. It was Young Jock's "It's Going Down" song happening. And I recorded her dancing the dance the entire time. And then Sue looks at me and had the biggest disappointment face, like, really? And I thought I was going to get jumped by the Storm, but Stewie turns to me and goes, "Hey, can you airdrop that to me?" And I don't know if you know this about me. I am not good with technology. I didn't even know how to do that. So Breanna Stewart takes my phone, airdrops the video of Sue Bird dancing to the entire Storm team. So they have the video. I have the video too, but they have the video. I've never posted it out of respect for Sue.
Of course.
So I guess this is urban legend because no one's really seen the video. But man, but the thing is though, and I was telling all my friends, and it so happens, other than me and Alan, everyone around us were women. I was like, hey, this is the greatest team. Like,
Yeah.
this woman sitting right next to me, I'm telling you, she's a legend.
Yeah.
Like, she had all this, and I could not believe it. I remember I came home, and the next morning I couldn't wait to tell my wife. And it was because sometimes you meet someone and they're terrible, and they disappoint you after you meet them, right? And this was not like, I became a bigger fan. Like, my daughter loves the store, and we bought all their jerseys and all that stuff. We got them all hanging out. So yeah, I love them.
No, that's phenomenal. I walked past Stu during the Seattle Pro-Am, but man, I'm glad she's hitting the dance though. Like, Sue is so swaggy. Like, she just does the little thing, smiles, has her entourage, talks to people, and like the fact that she was hitting the dance, I mean, that's
yeah,
huge.
love it. Love it. All right, so I got a segment called This or That, and I'm going to bring it up for you, Coach Edition, This or That. If you could get rid of one thing, would you get rid of zone defense or defensive three in the key?
Defensive three in the key all the time. All the time. I think that it limits and it stops our development as coaches. It really does. Like, and it stops the NBA. Like, you see Nick Nurse runs a box of one, Eric Spoelstra runs a 2-3. Borderline, I think Brad, when they OG hit the shot, they were kind of in the 2-3 a little bit. But yeah, defensive three in the key gotta go. Sorry, no one posts up anymore, so I don't think we have to worry. Like, so I just need someone in the middle. I need to pack the paint. I think we would talk a lot better about Anthony Davis, Joel Embiid also defensively.
Sure, absolutely. Okay, so this or that, Coach. If you could start a team with any player in the history of the world, man or woman, anyone, you can select anyone, but which style would you have? Would you have it revolve around post-ups or three-pointers?
Oh, man. Shoot. I got to say to the true root, I got to do a threes. I have to. Everyone always used to ask me, what do I do in practice for my AU teams? And we shoot a lot of threes.
You know what's interesting is, like, I shoot threes, and I did it really.
I know, I was on the end of a couple game points. I remember very vividly.
Listen, not everyone watching this has seen me play ball, so I'm glad you're saying this right now.
No, seriously, man. I don't know if anyone needs to hear this, but I could get close. He's got a clip. I mean, I just remember catch, black shirt, bang, black shirt, bang. Oh, those were the days. Oh, man.
So the reason why I actually started practicing shooting was very young. I realized I was not as quick and could not jump as high as other players. And I was like, what can I do to bring value to the team I'm playing with? This is worth more points. I'm going to, and I had luckily my dad set a hoop up in our driveway, and I just shoot all the time, and luckily, like, I just fell in love with just shooting. So that happened. But but I never preach you have to shoot threes. It's just a lot of the times, especially as an Asian dude on the court, when they don't know you, they float away from you. And then until you hit a few, and then they come closer. But then, so.
You know me, I'm raving. I'm like, get him the ball ASAP.
Oh, man. Like I said in the beginning, I don't know if I've met anyone louder that I've played with.
Oh, man. That's embarrassing. That's whenever you come to a game, hopefully, like, it's the same thing as a coach. It doesn't go off at all.
Awesome. All right, so the last segment we got is top 5 dead or alive, where I give you a category and you give me your top 5. It can be in any particular order. You don't have to say in an order of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 unless you want to. So top 5 women's basketball player of all time. Top 5.
Top 5. Diana Taurasi, Lauren Jackson, Candace Parker, Maya Moore, and man, I got to put Courtney Vandersloot in there too. Sorry to anyone that watches it that is a huge WNBA fan of mine, but I just got to go with what I know recently, man.
What a list. Love it. Love it. All right. So top 5 top 5 coaches of all time. It can be professional coach, any level you prefer. top 5, men or women. Go for it.
Okay, gotta go Gino. You gotta go, man. You gotta go Red Auerbach. You gotta go Phil Jackson. You gotta go Greg Popovich, obviously, and then man, you gotta go. I think underrated, and this is kind of a shock. Larry Brown.
Larry Brown.
Larry Brown, underrated because, and don't get me wrong, I think this is a special little case of many people think, right? But Larry Brown, man, I mean, how the hell did you get Allen Iverson to play the 2 guard and still almost like compete with the Lakers and then win with the Detroit Pistons? Man, underrated.
Listen, I know Larry Brown's a good coach, but Stephon Marbury might not agree with you right now.
No, he would be so mad. He'd be really upset. I mean, a lot of people should be, but it's the Knicks. So, I mean, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if we were to give a sub-A and a serious note, man, we were talking about Miami, so I'll give Pat Riley the nod. Pat Riley, phenomenal. I'm going to include the, entire letting Spoelstra coach thing.
Well, it's not fair that I'm telling you to name 5. There's just way too many.
It's so tough.
It's not fair. It's not fair. Yeah. Which is why I ask, because I don't like asking fair questions.
Yeah, and then definitely. I just thought of Pat Summitt right now. I didn't bring in Coach K. People probably think I don't know basketball now. Oh no, that's tough. Yeah, definitely. I mean, those are just 5 I can name off the top of my head. But yeah, it's tough. It's I wish you didn't ask. I hope no one judges.
And then the last top 5, and because we were talking about Steve Nash, top 5 players with no coaching experiences that would make good head coaches, man or woman. Yeah.
With no coaching experience.
Yeah.
Right now?
So as of right now, they have no assistant head coaching experience that you think would make good head coaches.
All right. So this is going to be I go for rare. So obviously you got to put, I think Courtney Vandersloot's up there. You got to probably put, you probably got to put Sabrina Ionescu just because Sabrina will be a really good coach. I think the third one you got to put, obviously LeBron because his high Q is amazing. The fourth one, you probably, that's tough. These last 2 are going to be so tough. You got to put Chris Paul if he ever did want to coach because he's been in a lot of systems. And my last one, once again, my last one's got to be a ringer. I think TJ McConnell from the Indiana Pacers will be a phenomenal coach.
I think I saw you tweet something about this earlier today. Yeah.
Yes. Phenomenal. Talking every possession, not overconfident, doing little stuff, talks trash. He would be a great Jerry Salone Jr. That's another coach I forgot also in the top 5. Holy cow. Oh, no.
I used to have this thing. So when I was little, my mom used to buy me a bunch of basketball books because she wanted me to read more because, I'm an immigrant and I didn't speak English when I was a kid. And she just wanted me to have something that I wanted to do. And I remember reading and I see all these basketball coaches. And then I saw that they used to be players like, Phil Jackson, Jerry Sloan, all of them, right? George Karl, everyone that I knew. And then I realized a lot of them also weren't like the star players. And I started to see a pattern, and most of them were like guards, and a lot of them, if they're, especially if I think right now it can be a starter or a one man on the bench, but if they're paying attention to the schemes, seeing the court, and and if they're around good coaches, I think they're set up to be good coaches without experiences, like you were saying earlier too. And it's, I also just find it a little bit sad that so many of these coaches I've seen play in real life, real time. I'm like, how old am I now? God, all of these coaches. Yeah. And some of these coaches are younger than me.
Yeah. It's nuts.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Jason Kidd. Yeah. I'm not shocked at all. You saw that coming, Yeah. That's, yeah. And I think he's going to get another head coaching job at some point somewhere.
Yeah, I think so. I think he did a good job. It was just with young. It's the X and O's thing, man. When you don't have the X and O's behind it, it's so tough. But it's funny that you say that because, I think as you get older, you start to judge your game more. I'm not the the 18 or 19-year-old kid that you met that I felt like I slide backboard. I thought was the coolest thing to hit, like since sliced bread, right? So I think it's funny that you said that because I will always tell people, like, I am a phenomenal in a men's league or co-ed league. I'm a phenomenal third option. I'm great. When I'm the first option, I'm decent. We might not win. We're going to survive, right? And as I translated to coaching, I was always just a defensive guy. Like, I loved to play defense. I knew that was going to get me on the floor consistently. And like I'm fortunate that I've turned into a coach that I feel like I've worked harder because that's what I've had to do. I've had to be people's lines. I've had to check the best player. I've had to get killed by a lot of good guys. Like, I mean, it definitely is something that happens to a lot of players where they see everything. You know, when you see everything and you don't have a bias. And, you know, I think there's a great rap quote, like, it's hard to teach greats how to be great. You know, and like you don't see a lot of great players be coaches. Now, the only one I think that would have been able to do it is Kobe. Like, I really do think if he wanted to coach, he probably could have done it.
I
He coached his
yeah.
daughter's team.
I think he would have eventually done
Yeah.
it. Because there's not a lot that I think Kobe couldn't have done, and I think he would have been phenomenal. You mentioned something in those string of sentences that I wanted to point out too. Out of all the things that I do remember about playing pickup with you is that you always were insistent of playing defense against the other team's best offensive player. I do remember that very vividly, that you always wanted to check that. And not a lot of players playing pickup don't care about how many points they score. And you were also on that list too. And that also stood out to me a lot.
I appreciate that, man. I mean, I had to get on. I think that was my niche. I felt like I could be the best defender possible. And I definitely think when I ran into good players, I was okay with it. Like, you know, I had a story one time where I think this guy from Portland, I don't know if he went to go play Division I, but it felt like in that game, like the scout report was, hey, I'll pick him up full court and, you know, I'll sag off once we get to the half court. And all of a sudden, like, I'm sagging off, I'm staying in front. He hits a three. My coach is yelling at me, like, what are you doing? I thought I could let him shoot. And, you know, I mean, it's good that real recognizes real. Like, after the game, he said, hey, dude, I've never had someone check me since he walked into the gym with his Subway, since he walked out, like, I've never had that before. So I appreciate that, man. It's kind of hard to remember how you play after a couple of years of so many people, man.
Incredible. So there is actually one question I forgot to ask.
Of course.
So as a coach, if you had the option right now, the coaching jobs available as of today are the Sixers, the Pacers, the Bulls, the Kings, the Pelicans. Which one would you want?
Oh, man, there's a lot that goes into that, I think, in a sense of, like, being in the background. I mean, obviously, NBA job is an NBA job, so you would take it. I think the Pelicans are building something really good. I think they have a good idea with their draft stock. The two ones I really think would really, to me, really spark my interest, I got to go with the Bulls, obviously, because of Zach LaVine.
I was going to say, Zach's going to get mad at you.
I gotta go with the Bulls, obviously. And I really do think the Pacers have the talent. I just think that it just was a weird year. Like, too many injuries, guys are hurt. They have the roster to compete. So
I was stunned that Nate McMillan got fired because so many people were injured. I thought he did a great job.
I think he did a really good job. I think they care. I think they just want something different. I mean, like, what people don't know is that the contract that they gave him gives him money next year. So I don't think it was anything hard feeling-wise. I mean, Larry Bird treats people really well. Don't ask Paul George that. But he definitely treats people as well as they can. I think that it just got to come down to how much support you have. And I feel like Nate got fired too early. I think he's a good coach. But at the end of the day, I think sometimes it's good to have a refresh when everyone's coming back from injury. Like, Sabonis wasn't there. Miles Turner wasn't playing that well. But I think they have the pieces. They're like a poor man's Miami right now, to be honest with you. Like, they definitely have the right piece. So that's the job that would intrigue me the most. And I think the Bulls are going to be really good coming up soon.
All right, man. I want to leave off with this. You know, I'm very proud of you. I've seen you over the years on Twitter. Please get an Instagram. Come on, step into 2020. Please get an Instagram. Let me be able to tag you in this video on Instagram. Okay. Okay. All right. So I want to say I'm very proud of you as a man who's raising a daughter, and to see what you do for the women's community and women's sports. I am so happy to see. I am for it. You know, when all this is over and, you know, you guys have fans in the stands, I look forward to checking out your guys' games, bringing my kid too. You know, thank you so much for coming on.
course, man. She can sit the bench and everything, man. No, I appreciate it. Like, I love giving back. I love talking to people. Like I said earlier, off call, like you literally were a big part of my life, even in a small little factor. And like I said, I followed you for years, ever since you've been doing YouTube, and you did all the other stuff. Like I have followed you for a long time. So like I really do appreciate this, man. This was an honor, to be honest with you.
Thanks for the kind words, Coach.
Of course, man.
All right, man. Thank you.
Of course.